This week's Parsha is Parshas Vayikra. Vayikra discusses many different types of sacrifices, karbanos. Amongst those are two types of sacrifices which we're going to focus on. One type of sacrifice is called the chatas. Chatas is a sin offering, and the chatas is brought on a negative commandment transgressed. A person is commanded not to do something and does it anyway, then he brings a chatas, a sin offering. Another type of sacrifice is the asham, the guilt offering. A guilt offering is brought in many different circumstances, one of them being if a person is not sure if he transgressed a commandment. He's not sure if he violated a prohibition. When he's not sure, he brings something called an asham talui, a guilt offering that is hanging, meaning that because he's not sure if he did something wrong or not, this is the specific sacrifice that he should bring in such a circumstance. What's extremely interesting is that if you look at the term, there's a sin offering and there's a guilt offering. Think about it. This is a sinner and this one is guilty. So we have one person on one side who knows for sure that he sinned. There's no question about it. It slipped his mind, he wasn't thinking, and he transgressed a prohibition. Brings a sin offering. But you want to know who's really guilty? The guy who's not even sure if he sinned. If he's not sure, then he has to bring the guilt offering, which is seems to be that he's more at fault. And actually, the Rishonim, the early commentators, explain that that's true. That the people who bring asham are actually, in a way, more guilty than those who bring a chatas, the sin offering, because that's why it's called a guilt offering, because you're more guilty. Now, how could you be more guilty if you're in doubt as to whether or not you ever did anything wrong? And then in a case, then you're for sure did something wrong. You know you did something wrong. It would seem to be the opposite. You should be more guilty when you're positive you did something wrong than as opposed to a case where you did something, you're not sure if you did something wrong. The Ramban answers, at least according to my understanding, this is what the Ramban is saying, that we are more guilty when we're not sure if we transgressed than in cases where we know for sure we did transgress. Think about a relationship. When a person is not even sure whether or not they did something wrong to their friendship with another, they're not even sure what happened, what occurred. It means that it wasn't significant enough to them to even notice it. It's not when a person notices something wrong in his relationship with another person, he notices that there's some type of disagreement and therefore he seeks to mend the fence, so to say. So that means that they have a relationship. But a person who doesn't even notice when his relationship is being messed up, then his relationship doesn't exist. So in this way, that's why Hashem views someone who doesn't know if he sinned as opposed to someone who knows for sure he sinned. You know for sure you sinned, then at least you have the heart. You understand that you have a relationship with God, and you feel that relationship. At times you slip, and you transgress something. You violate a prohibition, which is understandable. People sin. People are human. But not to even notice whether you sinned, that means that it's not important to you. This is something that you don't think about. You don't think about it? Well, then you have no relationship. That's even worse than actually committing a sin, the absence of that relationship. That's the reason why a guilt offering, you are guilty when you don't know if you sinned, but you're only a sinner if you know for sure you sinned. Because one, if you don't know if you sinned, you're guilty of an absence of the relationship with Hashem. If you sinned, you have the relationship with Hashem, but you slipped up. The question on this week's Parsha is like this. We have, in this week's Parsha, a covenant of the salt. The salt is put on every single sacrifice that's brought in the Beis Hamikdash. Actually, we still do this custom today. The way we do it is that we dip our bread in salt. You may have noticed that every time we say hamotzi, we're supposed to dip our bread in salt. The source of that is because all the sacrifices were dipped in salt. What is the significance of salt? Why is it something that is so still used today, even in contemporary times, and what's the connection between a sacrifice and the challah that we eat on Shabbos? Have a great Shabbos.